Top Bed Talk.
Our next speaker is June Davis. June is an allied health professional advisor for Macmillan Cancer Support and is the co-chair of the Prehab for People with Cancer initiative, which is a collaboration between Macmillan, the Royal College of Anaesthetists and the NIHR. So June is going to talk to us about prehabilitation and cancer, and I would like to invite her up, please.
Thank you so much for inviting me to speak on prehabilitation in cancer. It's fantastic to see so many people here, and the enthusiasm around this whole topic is quite palpable, to be fair. I'd like to just start by not talking. I know I'm supposed to be presenting, but I'd like to hear from the patients. So could we have, I'm just looking at audio chaps, I'm waving, clip 1.
So the prehabilitation gets you, I think, emotionally, physically and mentally ready to actually go under the treatment. And it is important you start to do that before, not after, when everything's confused and there's a bit of a melee going on. Really.
Of course. And clip 2.
How would you describe this to others who may be less knowledgeable about this area of work?
Yeah, the answer I'll put to that question after sitting there and mulling this one over for quite a time, it's a set of actions that can be taken in advance of treatment to ease your passage through cancer.
And clip 3.
You have to be physically, psychologically, mentally and well nourished to start any treatment. If that is not there, you would pay the price at the end.
So thank you to Clive and Della, who will join us later this evening. But actually, when the themes from Franco, Mike and myself are absolutely around keeping patients at the centre of this whole journey, and they have informed significantly what we've done around prehabilitation in cancer. And our journey from a Macmillan point of view has been, we started out with, let's try and understand this a bit better in oncology, understanding that a lot of work had gone on across other specialties for many years, as has already been alluded to. However, they felt that there needed to be a focus on cancer. So we have moved from publishing an Evidence and Insight report, which was in 2017, and you can look at that on the Macmillan website, through to the work that we will collaboratively launch later today. And I'm going to share some sneak peeks from that just now. Not all of it, because it's too much, but just some. So just to echo the themes of others, for the benefits of prehabilitation to patients and those that give care. So we mustn't forget the people that support people. And that's very clear when we're working within Macmillan about the number of people that support others and the wider networks. And what's very clear is that prehabilitation supports people to be personally empowered. That's come through loud and clear from the people that we've spoken to, that it promotes physical and psychological resilience and long-term health. And as has already been alluded to, the whole public health, making every contact count, supporting people to live, and not just live, but to live well. These are some quotes from some of the people that have we've spoken to in co-producing some of the work. Prehabilitation helps you pick, edit and contribute to your cancer story, so you have your own ownership and don't just feel you are being done to. Really, really important. Takes your mind off it all, something to focus on. Just about everybody I've spoken to really wants to be doing something and not being told to go home and rest. And it makes you feel more in control. It also calms the nerves. We have many, many other stories, but they're just some. And when you hear those, you think, actually, we really need to support people. And people and patients can be so supportive in this whole journey. It can really advocate for this to be much more mainstream in our system. So I'm speaking to an audience who I'm sure know this, but clearly prehabilitation absolutely empowers people with cancer when you've had the most devastating news ever, and enabling people to take some control after what is a significant shock. What is clear in the evidence as we've gone through some of the work we've done is that the benefits can be seen in as little as 2 weeks. And we have a challenge in the system around waiting times and treating people, and that will be the same across other countries, not just the UK. And we need to be mindful of that. But what is clear is that you can have a significant impact on people's health and well-being in a really short space of time. The other key thing for me, and I have a strong interest in rehabilitation as well as prehabilitation, is that this is part of a continuum. Franco rightly said this is absolutely not a silo. This is part of a pathway, but we need to get the whole pathway right. What we know in some parts of the country and across the world is that we have an emphasis at certain points too late in the journey, when I always say, I think a lot of this is predictable, that patients we can predict some of the issues people have. Therefore, why don't we think about being proactive earlier on in that journey and hopefully reducing cost and burden on the system. And as I've said, can help promote healthier behaviours, individualised prescription support, nutrition and psychological interventions. I think the case is made. But moving on, what we know from the evidence, and the evidence is emerging, and we've already heard how much is being published versus how much was published in the cancer world. Primarily it's been in surgery. There's more coming through around chemotherapy, radiotherapy, immunotherapy, and the targeted therapies. But what we know overall is, prehabilitation reduces length of stay. That's really important for all parts of the system. Enhancing recovery following treatment, post-treatment complications reducing, the teachable moment, making every contact count. There's a thread here through these presentations. Improving cardiorespiratory fitness, improving nutritional status, neurocognitive function, we mustn't forget that, and enhancing quality of life overall. And I just go back to people living versus living well. And that really matters. We can have all the treatments in the world, but actually if people are not living the way they wish to, we need to support and help people to do that. So prehabilitation versus standard care. So we just put this up. And standard care, medical preparations, predominantly, that's where the focus is. There's more clearly coming online around prehabilitation, and particularly those with cancer. And there's a lot of services emerging across the country, which is brilliant to see. However, what we know is that prehabilitation is much more holistic. There's greater professional and patient engagement. So it's not just a tick box of various parameters that a patient needs to be meeting before they have treatment, surgery, etc. So really important we understand that, and the active involvement, as I said, of patients and their carers and families, and the implications is really, really important in terms of choice, because people have choices here too, and we have to respect that. So the impact of prehabilitation in people with cancer, I like lots of colours, as you can see, but really important, quality of life is significant right across the pathway, physical fitness, mental health. We all have mental health. It's whether we're mentally well or whether we're not, and where we are psychologically in this space. And I think these kind of situations and life events can have significant impacts on people where we don't know how to cope, or where people don't know how to cope, and we need to be able to support that. It can support recovery, the symptoms, longer-term complications, length of stay, post-treatment complications, significant cost savings from complications, length of stay, reduction, etc. Returning to work, returning to contributing to society, goes back to the Marmot piece that Mike mentioned. Actually, it's the social determinants of health. How do people contribute to society? Really, really important. And retirement, and active retirement. I work with so many people that say they've retired and they're failed retirees, which is a good thing, really good thing. I work with lots of people like that, and it's great to see. But we need to encourage that, and enable people to be like that. So just some nuggets from the guidance that we'll launch later. Integrating prehabilitation into the cancer pathway is clearly crucially important that we get this right. My vision has always been that we mandate it in the pathway, that it's an opt-out, not an opt-in. like everything else, and that it should underpin the whole pathway. If people are well and fit, you wouldn't train and do a marathon without training. So why wouldn't you get yourself fit, healthy, well nourished, psychologically well through that journey? We know that prehabilitation can optimise cancer treatment by promoting health and well-being as part of that continuum. And one of the rehabilitation models is around prevention, restorative, supportive and palliative rehabilitation. So rehabilitation going right throughout, not just at the point of treatment and beyond, but much earlier. And that exercise, nutrition and psychological support should be integral to the care of people with cancer diagnosis. And we have that to a degree, but it is patchy and it's not consistent across the country and certainly not in every country in the world. So, it's another one of those really irritating slides. Let me just get it all up. Right. So, again, just to illustrate the point, if we hadn't already, that this is part of a continuum and that prehabilitation is at a point in that continuum. We've said, or I said earlier, that benefits can be seen in 2 weeks, but actually what we want and hope is that people will take on those choices and lifestyle changes throughout their ongoing lives for the benefit of all, and preventing other long-term conditions and other problems that may arise, nothing to do with any original diagnosis. Okay, I think another key thing which has already been mentioned is integrating prehabilitation into the cancer pathway and the involvement of cancer multidisciplinary teams, which are tumour-focused in the main, and that we are saying that there should be representation from those delivering prehabilitation in those teams. Really, really important to help influence the support that people need, and I think that perhaps links to some of what Franco was talking about frailty and those patients that might need a bit more help, support, and what you do in terms of best interest for people. And that certainly within the UK, and Mike mentioned it, around primary care networks, we have community hub multidisciplinary teams, and it's only a matter of time, in my view, that we are going to start to think about and need to support people with cancer outside of the hospital setting. They're there for a very short time, relatively. Currently, they get sucked into secondary care and get spat out the other end, and their GP or primary care professional sees them very little. But actually, the burden on the hospital system is such that we need to provide much more support out in primary care. So therefore, why shouldn't we be providing the physical activity, nutrition and psychological support out in that setting, wherever that may be? Just to continue the theme, and we all like acronyms, so we've put one in the guidance, that we will have personalised prehabilitation care plans, not separate, everybody's gasping, not another care plan, but actually we need to make sure we focus on those things, the exercise, nutrition and psychological support as part of somebody's overall care plan. Really, really important, and that it should be patient-held. Really. It's like treatment summaries, it's like some of these other summaries that we have for people, and that they should be in control and empowered to dictate what happens to them. And that following detailed assessment that we have dependent on need, clearly everybody's different, that there is then an individualised intervention prescription based on the screening and assessment process. So we're suggesting that people need to be screened for prehabilitation who have cancer and are assessed appropriately. And we've gone into that in quite a bit of detail in the guidance. The other point is about interventions need to be targeted at improving physical and mental health and should start as early as possible. Really important, and in advance of any cancer treatment, not just first cancer treatment. So if we have recurrence or other problems, then why can't we start as early as possible? Again, we debated over this triangle at length. You wouldn't believe a triangle could be so much debate, but there was. Anyway, it's nice and simplistic now, which is good. So for those of you that have seen the long-term plan, There is a personalised model of care in there, and we are trying to replicate that here in the guidance with looking at universal, targeted and specialist interventions. What we recognise is that it doesn't work simply that people go up or down a triangle, hence there are arrows all around it to make it sort of move or wobble, if you like. And the reason for that is that they may have specific specialist needs for nutrition, for example, but for physical activity may be very active. So people do not sit in one box, and we've just described at the side there what is applicable to different groups. But certainly in the universal category, we're suggesting that, and we do describe the interventions in more detail, what is applicable to anyone with a cancer diagnosis, which is basic health and lifestyle advice. So just in a bit more detail, so you can just see that. So universal I've talked about, targeted specific needs, including screening should be addressed with prescribed exercise, nutrition and psychological interventions, and behaviour change support by registered health and care professionals. So we are suggesting a certain group in the workforce to support that, and specialists, again, similar to support some of the implementation and the delivery of those interventions. Just thought you might like a map of the United Kingdom. I cannot take any credit for this, but there are just some of the prehabilitation in cancer services around the country, and they're detailed in the guidance. There are more, but they're some of the ones that are more dominant across the piece. You might see gaps and think, why is mine not on there? Apologies if it isn't. Yeah. So just some take-home messages. Before we just hear from one of our patients again. Prehabilitation is for anyone with cancer. We need to understand that. That can be used for people, not just surgery, but chemotherapy and or radiotherapy and or immunotherapy. What we need to be clear is that prehabilitation does not necessarily delay treatment. There's just been recent consultation on the cancer waiting time standards, and we've been clear in certainly contributions of responses from the Cancer Alliances and from Macmillan that that's not the case, that they are person-centred and tailored to the individual, that it is absolutely a process in a continuum and not a silo, and the interventions can make a positive impact in just 2 weeks. And if we could have clip 4, sorry, I'm just waving at people. We're trying to.
Great analogies from both of you, though, to take home in terms of messages. Is there anything else either of you would like to share, or have we covered?
I just feel prehabilitation is ideal. It's a win-win situation, and I haven't been sold that by anybody. When I went along to the first meeting, I could see that as being a great benefit to people, and because you've been through it. You can stand back and say, that would have helped me, I'm sure it would have done. Because when you go to the hospital initially, I mean, everyone's kind and, says they're sorry. It's not their fault. I don't know why they say sorry, but that's people's natural reaction. And, they've all got some kind words, but being a guy, I like some kind actions, really. And if someone could have put a list down and said, do that and you'll be a lot healthier, I'd have said, I'll do that.
Because you've just done it.
Yes,
absolutely.
Right.
And if I see you through, not just giving you a leaflet. It's not a matter of saying this is such a leaflet. It's not a matter of leaflet. Even in the consultation room, is there a mini bike or something? This is how you do it.
You need to be shown.
You need to be shown. Show me how to do it.
Yes.
Don't just say go and do it.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's the NHS will benefit better from this.
So again, thank you to Della and Clive there for their thoughts. So just to sum up, as I say, we have the launch later of the guidance, which has been very much a collaborative, huge team effort. So see some of you later today. Thank you very much.
Lee Majerison here. Thanks for listening to Top Med Talk. Now, before we let you go, it's important that we remind you to subscribe to Top Med Talk. That way you'll never, ever miss another episode. Also, if we could encourage you to join us on social media, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, pretty much every single social media platform, we're there. Join us. And finally, check out topmedtalk.com. topmedtalk.com. If you go to our website, you can subscribe to email updates. That way we can always tell you where we're going to be, what we're going to be doing, and how you can join us. topmedtalk.com and click on the section marked email updates. Finally, Top Med Talk is proud to act as the broadcasting arm of EBPOM, Evidence-Based Perioperative Medicine. We'd love you to find out more about them as well. ebpom.org is their website. That's ebpom.org. And if you go to ebpom.org/meetings, you can find out about some of the wonderful meetings that we attend and cover across the year here on Top Med Talk. That's ebpom.org/meetings.